Mayor, I think we're ready.
Okay, I would like to welcome Father Reggie with St. Aidan's Episcopal Church, who will lead us in our invocation tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and fellow council members. In my 6 years of doing this, I've never had any comments, but I'm a little disappointed this evening in a couple things. First, and we've got a parish member, Curtis Mills, who's trying to get a shack moved off his property. Past 2 years, he was shut down. You all shut him down. And secondly, you closed the polling place in Mr. Jacobus's district, District 3, where most of the Black and brown folks in Milton live. Now, I understand cost, but it's disappointing. Just wanted to let you know that. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, in your word, you have given us a vision of that holy city to which the nations of the world bring their glory. Behold and visit, we pray, the cities, especially here, Milton, of the earth. Renew the ties of mutual regard which form our civic life. Send us honest and able leaders. Enable us to eliminate poverty, prejudice, and oppression, that peace may prevail with righteousness and justice with order, and that men and women from different cultures and with differing talents and skills may find with one another the fulfillment of their humanity through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Reggie. I would like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, July 24th, 2023 to order. The city strongly recommends that you review tonight's agenda carefully, and if you wish to speak on any item on the agenda, then please bring your comment cards to the clerk as soon as possible. While the Milton rules allow a speaker to turn in their comment card up until the clerk calls the agenda item, once the agenda item is called, no more comment cards can be accepted. Will the city clerk please call the roll and make general announcements?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be happy to call roll for the July 24th, 2023 regular City Council meeting. I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those attending the meeting who would like to make a public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card. Your comment card must be presented to the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Any comments received after the item has been called will not be accepted. All speakers will identify themselves with name, address, and organization before beginning your comment. If you are representing an organization, an affidavit is required stating you have the authority to speak on behalf of that organization. Please review tonight's agenda, and if you would like to make a comment, please bring your comment card to me now. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outburst, or dialogue with any person speaking. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Peyton Jamison.
Here.
Councilmember Andrea Veerhoff.
Here.
Councilmember Paul Moore.
Here.
Councilmember Juliet Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Jan Jacobus.
Here.
Councilmember Rick Morrig.
Here.
And Councilmember, for the record, Councilmember Carol Cookley is joining us via Zoom. Councilmember Cookley.
Here.
And can you confirm your reason or that you're not here in town?
Correct. I'm in North Carolina.
Thank you. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next is approval of the meeting agenda. Council, I would like to add a new business item to tonight's agenda, and that item is consideration, discussion, and direction regarding the City of Milton precincts and polling locations for the 2023 municipal election to include possible modification of same and possible rescission of prior action establishing precincts and polling locations. Do I have a motion on that amended agenda?
Mayor, and I know you're taking a motion, but I just want to explain that to the extent that the council wants to discuss that item and to the extent that the council gives direction on that item, there are considerable time constraints with respect to timing of legal ads, et cetera. And so that is why there is a time exigency to us adding this, as it was not on the published agenda, but there is a time exigency associated with it. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, City Attorney. Is council okay with that motion or that agenda item?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the agenda with the adjustments that you have requested. Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Moore and a second from Councilmember Moore to approve the amended meeting agenda tonight. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. Okay, next is general public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We do, Mayor.
Okay. The next item is general public comment. Public comment is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and the city council to provide input and opinions on any matter that is not scheduled for its own public hearing during today's meeting. Each citizen who chooses to participate in public comment must complete a comment card and submit it to the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Please remember, this is not a time to engage the mayor or members of the city council in conversation. When your name is called, please come forward and speak into the microphone stating your name and address for the record. You will have 5 minutes for remarks. The city encourages you to review the agenda, and if you wish to speak, to bring your comment cards to the city clerk right now. And I will ask the city clerk to please call the first speaker.
Mayor, I invite Ms. Nia Courtson to the podium, please.
Good evening, Council. My name is Nia Corsten, and I reside at 550 Owens Farm Road, Milton, Georgia. I've been a resident of our community for nearly 17 years. By now, most of you probably recognize my name and/or face because of my dozen or so public comment appearances. I am one of many citizens who have attended these council meetings along with the feasibility study committees over the past 18 months. The overwhelming majority of citizens who have attended these meetings have shown their support for Milton and the city to manage their own municipal elections. As you know, a feasibility study was conducted, recommendations were made, open comments were invited, and a vote was held. Over the past couple of weeks, one or more non-Milton citizens have taken to social media as a means to spread, and I really hate to use this term, disinformation, to express their dissatisfaction about the process and our ability to manage our own elections. I rise here tonight to ask this council, to what end? We've got this. We really do. Over 100 people, citizens, have come forward to be part of this process. It was an overwhelming response to the community for those to get involved and to work in our elections. This also includes volunteering their unpaid time to form and execute the planning and process of these pre-election committees. The overwhelming majority of the individuals already have vast experience in working local elections, including day of and advance voting, myself included. The community is ready. The community is excited about this opportunity, and we are ready to make us all proud. I look forward to each of you for your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you please call the next speaker?
Mayor, I invite Ms. Lisa Cawley to the podium, please.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Cawley. I live at 14680 Freemanville Road in Milton. I came to speak regarding the municipal elections. There is an undercurrent of false information and allegations circulating regarding our elections and specific individuals in our city and elected city officials. This undercurrent of individuals are making accusations of election interference, among other false statements. The only election interference is the undercurrent of individuals projecting a false narrative in the community, appearing to pressure and influence Milton to abandon their resolve to run their elections and instead return to Fulton County. I want to remind you of the hard work and research done by the appointed Election Feasibility Committee. I want to remind you of the overwhelming response by Milton citizens who showed up repeatedly for over a year at council meetings, encouraging the council to vote to run our elections. I want to remind you of the tremendous unanimous vote by all of you to take over our elections due to the overwhelming findings on how the city would save the taxpayer what we now know is over $200,000. Only a few individuals in over a year spoke against Milton running our elections, and those individuals needed clarification or to be more informed. Regarding our city, any consideration abandoning our resolve would be financially irresponsible and turning your back on the citizens in this city who wholeheartedly support this endeavor and success. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you please call the next speaker?
Mayor, I invite Mr. Tim Becker to the podium.
Good evening, Council. Tim Becker, 97 Canton Street, Alpharetta. I was a resident of Milton for 28 years. I got deeply involved in politics, as many of you know, in 2015, 16, and 17. I have a tremendous love for Milton, and I want to say that I come here tonight, and I feel like I have to say this. I'm a lifelong Ronald Reagan Republican and conservative. I come here to tell you that. I'm also a veteran. I served this country for 8 years as a nuclear submarine officer. And I did that partly because I wanted to uphold the principles that this country was founded on. I come here because I am seeing in Milton a trampling of those principles by a few council members and some political partisans. Now, I've heard the word tonight, disinformation. Earlier today, somebody said fake news. And first, I want to say those people have never one time reached out to me and said that anything that I've written was factually incorrect. And in fact, I wrote to the one of them today and said, if there's anything factually incorrect in my blog, write to me. The other thing is I offered to them is submit a post. I will post it. So, there's nothing in my blog that is factually incorrect. These people have never reached out to me. It's easy for them to get up here tonight and say that, but, they need to put their money where their mouth is. This process from the start started out in secrecy. This committee was formed without almost anybody knowing about it. We don't know why people were put on it. We don't even know when people were put on it. There were 2 partisans that were put on the committee. There should have at least been 1 Democrat put on that committee, but you had 4 hard right people put on the committee. There was no expertise on the committee. The only expertise that I know of is one of the members was a poll watcher. That's it. Why are council members, incumbent council members, designing elections in which they are going to run? And they don't see any problem with it. And that interference, this secrecy, has continued until today. If you look at text from the consultant in late June, she identifies 2 partisans, one sitting in this room, that said, hey, we want to exert influence, but don't use our names. We're going to be in the background. That's wrong. It's wrong that political partisans are being assigned tasks by a council member, by the city manager. That's wrong. So this started out in secrecy. It started out wrong. And what we've got at this point is what I would characterize as Rosemary's Baby. And it's very clear, if all you have to do is look at the ORRs, and I've put them out there, all 7 open records requests and the responses. So all I'm doing is I'm taking them, taking screenshots and posting them. So they're available for anybody to see. And all 7 of you need to read the responses to those ORRs because it's shameful. It is absolutely shameful to see what has gone on over the last 6 months. And one other thing I'm going to mention, District 3 should have a polling location. And that was the recommendation of the committee. So you've got a partisan in here who comes in here and says, you need to implement the recommendations of the Election Feasibility Committee, chapter and verse. Well, if we're going to do that, then District 3 needs to have a polling location because it got changed. That was their recommendation. And it specifically, Mark Amick said, the Milton Public Safety Complex is where there should be a polling location. So your own consultant, the consultant that was forced upon the city manager by 2 council members has called out this
Time's
whole
expired.
process.
Thank you.
That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Will you please call the next speaker?
Mayor, I invite Melissa Fiorillo to the podium, please.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Fiorillo. I'm a Milton resident. I've been a Milton resident I've been in this area for 21 years. I live at 585 Bienville Court. And I feel like I know all of you because I've been up here to speak before. I've attended many of the feasibility study meetings, even though it wasn't on the committee. My husband and I are both retired, and we're, very concerned about taxes, the economy. It's not going to get better. It's going to continue to get worse. And when I heard that Milton was going to run their own elections and that we were going to be saving this astronomical amount of money, I was super excited. And I think there are a lot of other people in the community by the response that you had. There's over 100 people that volunteered to work. And I, as an experienced assistant poll manager, I volunteered my services. I also there were many feasibility study meetings. So they asked for a comment from the public. There was no secrecy. So I don't know what that was all about. And I think Milton focusing on the savings was what the community was asking for. I mean, we're spending lots of money on parks and all kinds of other things, roads, and that's all necessary. But in the economy that we're in, savings is important, and I want to thank you for listening to the public. Mr. Becker said that people could make comments, or no one has responded. You can't make comments on his blog, so you can't respond back to him. And he has put out a lot of information that is not correct. So I hope you'll take that into consideration. And I'm sure people have probably already sent you copies of his blog, so you've actually seen it for yourself. And again, I just want to thank you. I appreciate all that you're doing for the community.
Thank you. Thank you. Will you please call the next speaker?
That concludes public comment, Mayor.
Okay. I will close public comment and I will move on to consent agenda. Will the city clerk please sound the items?
Mayor, that first item is approval of the July 10th, 2023 regular city council meeting minutes, agenda item number 23177. Item B is approval of the financial statements and investment report for period 7, April 2023, agenda item number 23178. Item C, approval of a task order number 1 to the professional services agreement between the City of Milton and Journal Technologies for the addition of State House Bill 242 mandated changes to the court's case management software. Agenda item number 23179. D is approval of an intergovernmental renewal agreement between the City of Milton and the City of Roswell regarding fire apparatus fueling services. Agenda item number 23180. Next is approval of an assignment of contract from Heath and Lineback Engineers, Inc. to BBC Engineering, LLC for the Crabapple Road Streetscapes project. Agenda item number 23181. F is approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Milton and A1 Amusement Masters Production, Inc. Agenda item number 23182. 182. Our final consent item G is approval of subdivision plats and revisions. The first development is the estates of George Anderson Cook, located at 2025 Bethany Way, Land Lot 891, District 2, Section 2. It is a minor plat to subdivide the parcel into two lots. Lot A1 will contain 3.637 acres, and Lot A2 will contain 1.000 acres. It's a total of 4.637 acres with a density of 0.43 lots per acre. The next development is The Well. It's large lots at 15555 Hopewell Road, Land Lot 462, District 2, Section 2, a minor plat to subdivide the parcel into three large tracts ranging in size from 3.88 acres to 4.72 acres, a total of 3.297 acres with a density of 0.23 lots per acre. Did I say that right?
13.
13.2 okay, let's start this over. And action. 13.297 acres with a density of 0.23 lots per acre. The final development is Barron Minor Plat at 16465 Freemanville Road, Land Lot 242, District 2, Section 2. It's a minor plat to subdivide the parcel into two tracts. Tracts 1 will contain 1.503 acres, and Tract 2 will contain 1.503 acres, with a total of 3.006 acres and a density of 0.67 lots per acre. It's agenda item number 23183. Mayor Jameson?
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Moore to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Okay, there are no reports and presentation items. We will move on to first presentation. Will the city clerk please sound the items?
The first presentation item, Mayor, is consideration of U2302 by Tammy Ure, Dolphy, Adult Community Services, located at 3450 Hamby Road, to request for a use permit for alternative senior housing to use the existing single-family resident for a maximum of 4 residents. Agenda item number 23184. B is consideration of RZ 23-04 to amend section 64-1 minimum building lines as it relates to flag lots. C is consideration of RZ 23-05 to amend Chapter 64 as it relates to retaining walls. Agenda item number 23186. Mayor Jameson?
Thank you. Do I have a motion on the first presentation items?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the first presentation items as read.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Moore and a second from Councilmember Johnson to approve the first presentation items as read. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, there are no public hearings, zoning agenda, or unfinished business. We'll move on to new business. Will the city clerk please sound the first item?
That first item is consideration of a possible approval of the recommendations for the Performance Management Committee on the components, funding, and structure of the new performance management system. Agenda item number 23187. Our Deputy City Manager, Ms. Stacy Inglis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Over the past few months, the Performance Management Committee has been working diligently to develop a new performance management system, and I'm here before you to present the work and seek guidance and approval of the recommendations to include the funding structure. The agenda for this presentation is on the slide before you. I will introduce the committee members, review the objectives and desired outcomes that were established during the April 10th council meeting, present our research findings, go over the requirements for an effective performance management system, discuss the key decision factors and the committee's recommendations, present an overview of the proposed performance management system components, and the proposed funding structure of the merit incentive and market adjustments. So in order to ensure a diverse representation from our various departments, we carefully selected committee members who possess specific qualities and characteristics. During the formation of the committee, department heads were asked to recommend individuals who are strategic thinkers with an open mind, capable of seeing the bigger picture, not only focused on personal gain or impact. We saw individuals with an I get to attitude instead of an I have to attitude. displaying organizational skills and a willingness to complete tasks promptly. It was important that committee members were in good standing performance-wise within their respective departments, capable of effectively representing the committee's proposals as ambassadors. Additionally, strong communication skills and excellent interpersonal skills were sought, along with the ability to express objective opinions respectfully. And each committee member that we have embodies these criteria, and our collaborative efforts have been exceptional. And this has been my favorite committee, I just have to say. I do have one committee member here tonight, Thomas, right? There's no other. And honestly, we worked really well together, and I'm very excited about what we're recommending for you tonight and seeking your input. The objective, if you recall, that was established during the April 10th council meeting when this project was first presented to you, is to create a performance management system based on current best practices that is designed to motivate and engage employees and incentivize optimum performance. The desired outcome for the project was to have a system that is embraced by both council and staff. It should include developmental goals and performance goals that align with the strategic plan's goals, objectives, and core values. It should also include interim reviews throughout the year to foster communication between the employee and the supervisor to assure the common understanding of the purpose and expectations, and to assist with detecting opportunities for improvement as they develop instead of waiting for the end of the year. The system should also ensure that employees have the resources they need to be successful and provide accountability for the expected job performance. And the new system should consider rewarding high-performing employees. And lastly, we'll need to ensure that the evaluation ratings are applied in a uniform and fair manner throughout the departments. The committee reviewed numerous documents during a research phase to ensure we were following best practices in the development of the system. And the most influential of the documents that we came across were one was called Designing an Effective Pay for Performance Compensation System. And this is a report that is presented to the President and the Congress of the United States by the U.S. Merit Systems Protection Board. And the second most influential document was Performance Management, a roadmap for developing, implementing, and evaluating performance management systems. And this is published by the Society for Human Resource Management, or SHRM. And this is a professional organization that it covers 165 countries and has nearly 325,000 members across all sectors. There's also a great deal of research available that covers the various aspects of performance management, and that's the good, the bad, and the ugly, and includes, it pertains to the public sector, which was really nice whenever we were going through our research, because a lot of times you look at a lot of just private industry and how it applies to private industry. But thankfully, this did look at public sector and how it applies to the public sector. The most common theme we found in the readings is that a performance management system, particularly those systems that include pay for performance, can only be effective if employees are motivated to perform at their best, believe in the fairness of the system, and see a clear connection between their efforts and the outcomes. To achieve this, certain requirements must be met. Establishing a culture that values and supports a pay-for-performance approach is essential. This includes promoting the idea that high performance is recognized and rewarded. Supervisors play a pivotal role in implementing and maintaining a pay-for-performance system. They should provide clear expectations, regular feedback, and fair evaluations. Effective supervisors create an environment of trust, open communication, and support for employees. Next is designing a robust performance evaluation system is crucial. It should incorporate clear and measurable criteria, well-defined performance goals, and an objective assessment process. Regular evaluations enable employees to understand their performance levels and identify areas for improvement. Next, sufficient financial resources must be allocated to support the pay-for-performance system. This ensures that the organization can provide meaningful rewards and incentives to employees who meet or exceed performance expectations. Implementing mechanisms to ensure fairness is important. This can involve multiple levels of review, calibration sessions to minimize bias, and regular audits to ensure consistency and objectivity in the evaluation process. And such checks and balances build trust and confidence in the system. Providing training programs to supervisors and employees is essential. The training should focus on enhancing their understanding of the pay-for-performance system, performance expectations, and evaluation criteria. Training helps employees develop the necessary skills and knowledge to perform at their best. And regular evaluation and review of the pay-for-performance system is critical to identify any areas for improvement. Gathering feedback from employees and supervisors, analyzing performance data, and making necessary adjustments to ensure the system remains effective and aligned with organizational goals. The committee's research efforts encompass more than just reading through documents. We actively engage our peers in neighboring cities to gather insights into their performance management systems and merit pay structures. Our aim was to identify and compile best practices that could be implemented here in Milton. And it became quickly evident that no two systems are alike. And each organization must choose what suits their specific environment. For example, 3 of our neighboring cities provide merit-based increases as a percentage of an employee's pay. Annually, the council provides a percentage which is then allocated to each department. Then conversely, another city offers a merit increase based on pay grade, not just the departmental pay, but pay grade, with the employees receiving their increase as a fixed dollar amount instead of a percentage. 2 additional cities have a merit pay structure that combines a cost of living adjustment with a flat dollar merit incentive, or bonus, if you will. The COLA is added to the base pay, while the merit incentive is a one-time payment that is not included in the base pay. Although the COLA is approved annually by the council, the bonus structure, or the merit pay structure, remains constant. Apart from the structure of merit incentives, variations exist in how cities handle different levels of responsibilities. So you've got your manager level, your frontline employees, department head level. So some cities evaluate all employees and managers based on the same behavioral competencies, while others assess managers against a distinct or an additional set of competencies that relate to their level of responsibility. Merit pay for managers and employees can be structured similarly, where everyone is eligible for the same approved percentage of salaries within their department. Alternatively, tiered merit increases based on position can be implemented. Interestingly, one city opts not to evaluate their department heads, reasoning that if a department head is not performing well, they are not in their position. And this particular city offers a flat $6,000 merit increase to their department heads. It's worth noting that several of these cities have recently undergone or are currently undergoing a revamp of their performance management system. In addition, we conducted discussions with representatives from 3 private sector companies, Georgia Power, Jackson Healthcare, and we also talked to a former HR director from an Atlanta-based internet service provider who asked that that internet service provider remain anonymous. Each of these companies maintains a formal performance management program that evaluates their employees based on a range of behavioral competencies. They also recognize and reward high-performing individuals through merit increases. However, that's where the similarities end. The calculation of the increases that they receive typically rely on the financial performance of the company. So things like profit margins, total shareholder return, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, or other relevant measures are used for their merit increases. And in some organizations, managers are provided with cash incentives and opportunities for stock ownership, aligning their rewards with both the overall success of the company and the individual performance. And the lower level employees, on the other hand, may receive individual or group bonuses for good performance. These practices demonstrate how these companies link rewards to both organizational achievements and individual contributions. The next, to create a performance management system, give me just a moment, that aligns with our city's needs, several crucial decision factors must be considered. In the following slides, I'll provide an overview of each of these key decision factors and present the committee's recommendations. And after each recommendation, I'll kindly request that you provide any thoughts or guidance on anything to make sure that our vision aligns with yours. So the first key decision factor is what competencies should be evaluated. When establishing core competencies for team members' evaluations, organizations should prioritize characteristics that revolve around knowledge, skills, abilities, and other relevant attributes crucial for driving positive organizational outcomes. And a reasonable number of competencies should be identified, and it's typically between 5 and 15 key competencies. These competencies should be aligned with strategic objectives and critical success factors while also accounting for varying levels of responsibility. Some competencies are universally applicable across all roles, but additional consideration can be given to tailoring specific competencies to the technical aspects of different jobs, such as industry-specific knowledge, skills, and technical expertise. The committee proposes the implementation of a comprehensive set of core behavioral competencies that are applicable to all positions across our organization and are directly linked to the city's core values as outlined in our strategic plan. By establishing a uniform set of core competencies for all team members, we can ensure greater consistency in performance evaluations. Under each core value, there will be 3 to 4 related behavioral competencies that will be evaluated for all team members. Furthermore, managers and department heads will be assessed on additional behavioral competencies specific to their roles and responsibilities. And before you is a copy of the performance evaluation that the committee has developed, and I will show an example on the next slide. So for instance, for Together We Thrive, which is that core value that is established in our strategic plan, that means the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Inclusive collaboration, creative engagement, diversity of opinion, and purposeful commitment to continuous personal, professional, and team growth lead to outstanding results. And underneath that are 4 core competencies that every employee will be evaluated on. Those include collaboration, dependability, communication, personal and professional growth, and then additional competencies that managers and department heads will be evaluated on, which includes inclusion, engagement, and team builder. And there's definitions for each one of these. Other values that we have are service is our obsession. The core competencies under that are customer service, professionalism, and integrity. We also have own it, deliver it. The core competencies are work quality, productivity, and goal achievement. And then last, we had lead from the front. And under that are nested the change agility, initiative, innovation, stewardship, and leadership core competencies. And then with a performance management system, it is essential to use a numerical rating scale to assess performance. The use of a 5 to 7 point scale is commonly recommended as it offers an adequate range of rating points to effectively differentiate between team members' performance. The performance level should be defined sufficiently so that raters can apply them in a uniform and fair manner. And the committee recommends using a 5-point scale that's displayed on the slide, and a matrix has been developed that clearly defines the performance level of each competency. We also recommend that rating narratives accompany the numerical score. So if you saw on the previous slide, they have a comment area. And so we will ask our supervisors to provide a comment or narrative that provides feedback on specific behavioral examples that support the score that the employee is given. And so to show you an example of the performance matrix, the committee developed this performance matrix and show it defines, again, each core value as you see on the performance evaluation form. And it further defines what the performance level, each performance level looks like for that particular core value. So it goes from exceptional performer all the way down to and action. I'm going to use that. All the way down to expectations not met. And this has been developed for each and every core value that you see on the performance level, and that has also been provided to you as a copy. And I'll stop here and ask if you have any feedback or thoughts on what the committee is recommending here.
Questions for Stacy?
Okay. The next key decision factor is who should be evaluated and who should do the evaluating. When designing the performance management system, it is essential to carefully consider the inclusion of participants. This involves deciding whether the evaluation should be limited to full-time employees or if part-time employees should also be assessed. Additionally, it is important to determine whether all levels of responsibility, including department heads, will be evaluated. And furthermore, it is crucial to establish the point at which new employees will be incorporated into the performance management system. The committee's recommendation is to include all regular, full-time, and part-time team members in the performance management system while excluding seasonal employees. The evaluation process will encompass all levels of responsibility, ranging from non-supervisors to department heads. Also, 360 evaluations encompassing peer, subordinate, and supervisor reviews are recommended for department heads to begin next fiscal year as a component of our development tool. As for new employees, those with a minimum of 6 months of service will be included in the performance evaluation program with their merit pay prorated based on the number of completed months of service. And I'll pause here to answer any questions or hear your thoughts on the committee's recommendation on this particular decision factor.
Any questions for Stacy?
Great. Next is, what are the risks that should be recognized and how can Milton mitigate their impact? So acknowledging the potential risks that an organization may encounter when implementing a performance management system is crucial for ensuring a successful outcome. While this slide highlights some of the risks we need to be aware of, I will actually move on to the committee recommendation slide and present each risk, define it, and then talk about how the committee recommends mitigating those risks. Wrong design. It's essential that a performance management system and tools are specifically tailored to meet the unique needs of our city. Simply replicating a system from another organization, even if it is a sister city or private sector firm, will not suffice. To address this concern and ensure that a performance management system is a well-tailored fit, we have proactively engaged team members from diverse departments and levels of the organization. By involving individuals from various roles, we gain valuable insights and perspectives that might otherwise be overlooked. Again, my awesome committee. Bias performance ratings. Various biases can affect performance ratings. Examples include leniency bias, which is inflating ratings due to sympathy; halo horns effect, which is evaluating based on one notable aspect of the performance; recency bias, which is ratings are based on recent events; and similar to me bias, which is favoring those similar to oneself in interest, skills, and background. Being aware of these biases is critical to maintaining fairness. And training will be provided to our supervisors that defines the various biases, discusses their impact, and provides methods of avoiding them. By acknowledging and addressing these biases, we can foster a culture of transparency, objectivity, and trust within the organization. Also, incorporating calibration sessions into the performance management system is a valuable approach to counteracting biases and enhancing fairness. So these sessions involve peer reviews and discussions among supervisors to align their ratings and ensure consistency in valuation standards. By collaborating and openly discussing their assessments, supervisors can identify potential biases and work toward an equitable and standardized evaluation process. Moreover, calibration sessions foster knowledge sharing among supervisors, allowing them to learn from each other's perspectives and experiences. This collaborative approach builds a sense of collective responsibility for the fairness of the evaluation process and promotes a unified understanding of performance expectations. Poor implementation. When it comes to implementing performance management programs, the stakes are high and any inadequacies in the process can have far-reaching consequences for the entire organization. To ensure successful outcomes and avoid potential pitfalls, a well-thought-out approach is essential. Here's how careful planning and execution can lead to positive results. 1, the strategic communication plan it's a clear and strategic communication plan is fundamental to the successful implementation of any performance management program. It involves transparently conveying the purpose, expectations, and objectives of the system to all employees. By communicating the benefits and goals, employees will be more motivated to participate actively and align their efforts with the city's mission. The communication plan should also address any potential concerns or misconceptions employees might have about the new system. Openly addressing questions and providing clarification will help build trust and ensure a smooth transition. And 2, clearly defining expectations and objectives. Defining clear and measurable expectations and objectives for the performance management system is crucial. Employees need to understand what criteria will be used to evaluate their performance and how it aligns with the organization's overall goals. Clear expectations lead to a more focused and purposeful workforce, driving productivity and accountability. 3, a well-written policy. A well-written policy is the backbone of any performance management program. It should be comprehensive, concise, and easily accessible to all employees. The policy should outline the performance evaluation process, the rating scale, the frequency of reviews, and the consequences of performance outcomes. A carefully crafted policy helps ensure consistency and fairness across the organization. And then having a well-structured implementation schedule is also essential to avoid confusion and disruptions during the rollout of the performance management system. A clearly outlined timeline helps all stakeholders understand when and how the new system will be introduced, making it easier for them to adapt to the changes. Regularly communicating progress and milestones during the implementation process keeps employees informed and engaged. And then lastly, ongoing evaluation and revision will also aid in mitigating the poor implementation risk that we have. So even with careful planning, no performance management system is perfect from the start. So continuous evaluation of the system's effectiveness is necessary to identify any shortcomings or areas of improvement. Gathering feedback from employees and supervisors about their experiences with the system can reveal valuable insights. If needed, the system should be revised to address any issues and better align with the organization's evolving needs. Next, erosion of employee morale and engagement. Ineffective performance management programs can quickly diminish employee engagement. When performance evaluations lack clarity, employees become uncertain about how their work contributes to the city's mission. Without a sense of growth or progress, employees cannot develop into engaged and high-performing individuals. Moreover, if the program is perceived as unfair, employees may feel uninspired, leading to decreased motivation, lower performance levels, or even employee attrition. To address this risk, it is crucial to implement measures that empower and support employees in their growth and development. Employee training is a vital component of this strategy. Providing training on how to receive feedback effectively is essential in fostering a culture of open communication and continuous improvement. When employees are equipped with the skills to accept feedback constructively, they are more likely to embrace opportunities for growth and development. We like how one interviewees put it. They said in their organization, they embrace a culture that receives feedback as a gift, or that views feedback as a gift. And we would like to bring that into the city of Milton. Also, incorporating an employee survey is another valuable tool to assess its effectiveness and identify areas for improvement within the performance management system. The survey provides employees with an opportunity to share their opinions, concerns, and suggestions openly. Taking the feedback seriously and making appropriate adjustments based on the survey results demonstrates that the city values the employees' perspectives and is committed to creating a fair and effective performance management system. Resistance to change. Introducing something new is always going to meet resistance. And it could also be met with apprehension among the employees. The success of the implementation largely depends on how effectively these concerns and hesitations are addressed. By taking proactive measures to anticipate and manage resistance, the city can achieve a smoother transition and foster a more positive acceptance of the change. We want to prepare the employees for the change. The more informed the employees are about the upcoming changes, the less likely they will resist them. So it's crucial to communicate early and transparently about the reasons behind the change, the benefits it will bring, and the potential impact it will have. Providing clear and honest information helps alleviate uncertainties and misconceptions and will help build trust and confidence in the organization's decisions. Frequent communications is a key element in managing resistance. It will keep employees updated and engaged and informed throughout the process. Communicating the timeline, milestones, and expectations helps employees better prepare for the change and minimizes the element of surprise. And then leadership support. Having the support of leadership is crucial for a successful implementation. When employees see that senior management is fully behind the change and actively involved in the process, as well as you, mayor and council, they are more likely to embrace it. And the last risk I want to identify is lack of funding. Insufficient funding for the merit pay program can lead to the unfortunate practice of forced ratings. Forced ratings occur when managers are compelled to assign a fixed percentage of employees to specific performance categories, such as top performers, average performers, and low performers. This artificial distribution can be demotivating for employees and erode trust in the fairness of the evaluation process. Therefore, it is vital to allocate adequate funds to support the program. To avoid potential pitfalls and ensure the program's sustainability, it is wise to prioritize the funding and base calculations on conservative estimates. Relying on realistic projections of the budget required ensures that there are enough resources to incentivize high performance and accommodate deserving employees without compromising the program's integrity. By recognizing and proactively addressing these risks, we can navigate the implementation of the performance management system more effectively and increase the likelihood of achieving positive outcomes. What should the structure of the merit increase look? I'm sorry, go back to the risk. I'll pause here and ask for any thoughts or feedback.
Any questions?
Just a quick one. I know we'll probably get to timing of implementation later on, assuming, go forward on this. So do you envision ongoing HR training and basically to build this culture to let people know?
Absolutely. That is one major component of the system is the training. And we'll talk about it later. But right now the committee recommends at least the initial implementation of it for the training to be performed by an outside party. We've already engaged the Carl Vinson Institute and just spoke with them about their training program. I know they provided training for another city and when they implemented their performance management program. And so we are looking at them and the program that they provided for the training for the supervisors. We'll also incorporate training for all employees on how, like I mentioned, how to receive feedback. And understand that feedback is that gift that we talked about, and it helps foster growth and effectiveness of the employee. So we'll incorporate training on all levels of this rollout. Sure.
Stacey, can I clarify something you just said? I want to make sure I understand the Carl Vincent role if you do end up choosing them. Their role is to help the team that's receiving this new program to embrace the core competencies or the primary charges of the new program, but it's still going to be the charge to teach and get into the detail of the managers and the leadership of our own team here
Exactly.
today, correct?
That is the main focus of the supervisor training, so that they understand how to give feedback, how to evaluate fairly and consistently, being aware of those biases that we talked about.
Yep.
And understanding them, because if you understand them, you will hopefully avoid them when you're doing the performance ratings. So most definitely, they'll be training again on supervisor level and then all the way down to the employee level on how to receive feedback.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before I move on? So the next key decision factor is what should the structure of the merit increase look like? There exist several approaches to structuring a merit increase, with the two most common being one-time payments or bonuses. Just to use that term here because it's a lot of people can relate to it. Bonuses in city government isn't highly favored or highly viewed. And then performance-based pay. Each approach has its own sets of advantages and disadvantages, and I'll discuss those now. One-time payments, or bonuses, as I mentioned, represents a variable amount of pay that is dependent solely on performance and is not guaranteed. The advantage of this approach is that it acknowledges the fluctuating nature of employee performance, allowing for the distribution of a larger pool of bonus money each year, rather than allocating funds from previous years for performance-based pay increases. So if an employee performs really well one year and not so well the next year, you're not carrying that increase within the base pay each year. It also enhances the visibility of rewards, reinforcing the link between the employee efforts and the outcomes. However, the disadvantage is that a significant portion of pay is at risk, making the employee's salary less predictable and potentially leading to stress or retention issues. Additionally, in the public sector, bonuses are often insufficient to truly recognize high-performing individuals. In contrast, Performance-based pay increases are incorporated into an employee's base pay and generally only adjusted upwards. The advantages of this approach are that employees may perceive consistent increases to be more desirable than the potential fluctuations associated with individual bonuses. Moreover, base pay increases are more appealing than bonuses as they enhance the value of various benefits such as retirement savings or retirement investments and earnings. However, the disadvantages include limitations on adjusting pay to reflect an employee's current performance level, long-term cost implications, and the possibility of the incentive being too small to be meaningful due to funding constraints. As an alternative to these two merit increase structures, organizations may adopt a combination of bonuses and base pay increases, such as a cost of living adjustment. This strategy allows the organization to enjoy the benefits of both approaches while mitigating their downsides. The advantages include ensuring that the pay system keeps up with inflation and does not erode the purchasing power of employee compensation. It also provides greater control over costs and alleviates pressure on the overall performance management system. Regardless of the chosen merit increase payment strategy, it is crucial for the reward to be sufficiently meaningful to incentivize high performance. So the committee's recommendation, after extensive research and consultation with industry experts, proposes a combination strategy that includes an annual market adjustment that's added to the base salary and a merit incentive that is separate for base pay. So it's a one-time payment that the employee will receive once a year. This type of structure takes the pressure off of the performance management system and ensures the city remains competitive within the market. The details of the recommended pay structure will be presented later on in the presentation, but I'll pause here and ask if you have any thoughts or feedback or have any questions. Okay.
Stacey, I do. So a performer not meeting minimum standards could potentially still receive a pay increase based on the market adjustment.
Potentially. We are looking internally about whether or not we will include the market adjustment for those employees who are on a performance improvement plan or PIP. So we are looking at that and determining if there's any implications that we need to consider for the legality, if there's any kind of legal issues with that, if we don't include them in the performance, in the market adjustment. But we will be checking into that on the market side, most definitely on the merit increase side or the merit incentive side. Anybody who's not performing well will not receive an incentive.
Thank you.
When we look at the market adjustment, that is where we're going to find a percentage, and that's what we're going to give everybody across the board, basically.
That's the recommendation.
My issue with that is similar to what Councilman Moore said. My feeling is we're going to rate, managers are going to rate individuals from 1 to 5. 5 being exceptional performer, 1 being they're not meeting expectations at all. To me, someone achieving a 1 should get no market adjustment at all. Somebody receiving a 2, which means they only meet part of their expectations, to me should only get like half of that. To me, that market adjustment is for those individuals that meet expectations and deserve that full percentage.
We'll definitely look into that. Again, we need to speak with our astute attorney to ensure that if there's any market adjustment pay withheld, since the theory or the structure that we're proposing is a market adjustment and an incentive or a merit incentive based on performance. And the market adjustment isn't based on performance. It is just to keep the employee's salary up to market. But if anything is withheld, we'll need to check with legal to see if we can do that without any ramifications.
When you look at that kind of performance measure, the world that I've lived in historically, my entire career in the corporate world, market changes we're not the only drivers to whether or not the people in the corporation were going to receive a merit increase at all. And you may have a market increase that would be a couple of percentage based on what the economy is doing, but the company itself did not have a banner year. And as such, there was no funding for it, regardless of what the market index was telling. So this does not take that into consideration. I just offer that for your review, is that even in a terrible marketplace where, in this case, we're not a corporation performing with a product, but it does not take into consideration the fact that there are years that the company may not be able to afford a raise because the performance didn't meet such goals that would generate the cash flow to fund a compensation package that year. And so nobody gets raises.
And that's why this will be included in the budget every year and brought to you every year for consideration in the budgeting process. So if it is to the point where the city just simply can't afford, for whatever reason, then we can certainly pull back on this. This isn't set in stone. This is something that we can adjust if we needed to, but it is all based on funding.
Yeah, I believe, I know I wasn't here back in the recession era in 2008, 2009, maybe Councilman Moore was, but people did not get the raises that we were accustomed to, and jobs were slashed. And so we do react to the overall market for sure.
Absolutely.
You have to.
Okay, are we good to move on?
Now think about the impact on sorry to just go one step further. Sometimes the marketplace might be such that the only way to pay for that is to increase taxes. Well, how inappropriate would that be to fund the program when our consumer who is paying the taxes is not getting a raise this year because of the market being terrible? And our only choice then is to fund it via tax increase. And you can imagine what kind of reception we would get from our taxpayers. It'd be terrible.
I could imagine that wouldn't go forward if that was the case.
And you can imagine it would not.
Okay. All right. I will move forward. So our intention is for the performance management system to serve as a dual purpose tool encompassing both development aspects and evaluation tools. Regarding development, we have already implemented a check-in process where employees and managers convene 3 times a year to discuss SMART goals and SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound, or whatever word you want to put in there for that same acronym, SMART goals, and provide assistance in achieving them. Additionally, we will introduce a 360 evaluation specifically for department heads, which will function as a developmental and coaching tool. For the evaluation aspect, we propose incorporating training sessions that we mentioned earlier for employees and managers. And these sessions will focus on effective feedback delivery and reception, emphasizing the significance of performance evaluations and equipping participants with tools to address previously identified risks. The committee recommends engaging, I already mentioned, the Carl Vince Institute for this training, especially for the initial rollout of this program. Furthermore, we will request employees to conduct self-evaluations, highlighting notable accomplishments during the evaluation period and discussing their proficiency in core competencies, as well as identifying any challenges they face. And you have a copy of that self-evaluation in the packet before you. This information will contribute to the manager's assessment of the employee's performance. Once the employee's evaluation form is completed, the calibration sessions that I mentioned will be conducted, and that involves peers to discuss and align ratings. And these sessions aim to mitigate any biases among raters and ensure consistency across the organization. And lastly, the manager will meet with the team member to deliver the performance feedback. How do you feel about the proposed components of the performance management system?
When you do the check-in, the initial, is that where we would basically be setting for each employee discrete and specific performance requirements? It's clear what it is that's expecting, what they're going to be measured against?
That's on the developmental aspect. That is more for goals and helping them to achieve a higher performance. It's basically setting those goals that are reachable, but not so easy to attain. And so it is designed specifically as a developmental tool. It will feed into the evaluation, a performance evaluation, because there is a a core competency that talks about goal achievement. But we wanted to make sure that we develop employees on one side and then evaluate the performance on the other. The employees will have a copy of the evaluation and all the core competencies or in the expectation of the performance levels. They'll have that ahead of time. We plan on rolling this out. The implementation is going to have like a dry run, what we call. So the employee will have a performance evaluation done at the end of this fiscal year, but it won't feed into the merit incentive they will eventually receive. We don't propose that happening until mid-year. So the real performance evaluation will happen at mid-year for the first year, and then we'll look at see how we're going to do future years to see if we're going to keep that same schedule for how we do the performance evaluations and do the merit incentives. But that is the proposed rollout. We wanted to at least ensure that the employees knew what to expect and adjusted their performance evaluation, adjusted their performance levels to ensure that they receive the highest performance rating they can possibly get.
Just a suggestion. I like what you said about developing people. Sometimes in some companies, from a culture standpoint, I've seen it with two different documents. One, which is your performance plan, which basically is your job. Here's what's expected. Here's the things that if you meet or exceed or don't meet, these are the components that actually are required. And it could include teamwork and other things. But then from a development standpoint, I've heard where you have a development plan where you talk to the employee. What are the stretch goals? What are the things maybe where you really need to grow your skills and actually incorporate that, but it's not tied right into your performance. It's really a development of that employee based upon where they're at, whereas the performance evaluation is basically, here's what your job is for your level, what you're expected to do. Here's what you're going to be assessed against. I would just say, at least think about that.
That's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what we're proposing. I appreciate that.
I mean, I like the idea. I think we do need, if we want to try to continue to build a high-performing team, it makes sense to actually do the development, which also is a discussion of, okay, what are your goals? What do you want to do? Let's talk realistically. I, as your manager, here's what I see. Here's some things I think you need to improve on. How can we do that? Those type of things.
And you have a copy of the check-in in your packet as well. I think it's the last sheet in your packet.
If I understand it, Stacy, you really already have that included. When I look at Together We Thrive for just the general employee, and I go down to personal and professional growth, that's where we're talking about somebody that's provided, these are areas where you need some growth, and the initiative they take to move it forward, this would cover that, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Can I build on that? I had a question similar to that from the beginning, and I was going to hold it to the end, but this may be a good place to ask it. So the performance measurement that could potentially produce compensation, merit increase, would come from only objectives that fall within the key competencies that we're talking about, the Together We Thrive, the
This is our obsession, own it, deliver it.
et cetera?
Yes.
Or will the individual also have specific personalized performance goals that will contribute to their ability to earn a merit increase?
Just the core values, the core competencies that we've identified in that performance evaluation is what they'll be evaluated on. We decided that we wanted to make sure it's fair across the board, across all departments. And so we chose those core competencies that are applicable to all jobs and not specific to their specific role.
But I think to your point, Paul, I think you're actually covering that. When you look at these individually, you can build in, a manager can build into an employee, those. I think, to me, when I look through this, the key is training a manager to really understand how to work this, to what you're talking about, I think.
Because you may have somebody striving towards this goal, this team, the larger competency goal, but missing on a personal development goal that is always going to prohibit them from getting to that goal. If that manager is not in tune with that employee to be able to recognize that shortcoming, that we didn't need to identify the individualized training and support and development that the individual needs. If that's clear and
It
you've
is.
contemplated
I see
that,
what
then
you're
we're
saying.
good.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree. And as Councilmember Jacobus mentioned, the check-in will lead into that performance evaluation on that specific goal or the core competency.
What you don't want to have is an employee that's in conflict because they have to achieve the primary objective, but they're falling short of their personal growth development, and they sacrifice their personal growth development to achieve the core competency, but they can't get to the core competency because they never had that personal development. So it's kind of a catch-22. If you contemplated that, great.
Those should be aligned,
Yes, they should be.
right? So the personal growth should be aligned with the organizational objectives. And if the manager is doing his or her job, they're going to ensure that the personal growth is aligned with that already.
Okay. But if you have 10 employees on your team, though, you may have 10 individual different types of personal growth that your team needs to be able to get to the whole. They can only get to the whole if you have these kinds of development taking place that are individually necessary to ensure that that person has a chance to succeed.
Entirely agreed. But as long as you're making sure that your team is focused and you determine what each person's contributions are to the greater whole, I feel like you should be able to manage it. On top, I do believe that it does cross over to the point that Councilmember Jacobus brought up. That does have some crossover between the developmental tool and the evaluation tool about whether or not they're meeting their development goals.
Yeah, that's the check-in, right?
Yes.
It's
correct.
both. You would do your check-in, which we're doing right now, but then it carries over to the evaluation tool.
Yeah. Great.
Okay. So for the next few slides, we'll go over the proposed merit incentive structure. So allow me to provide you with an explanation of the components presented in this table. So this table is designed to provide an overview of the performance ratings for regular full-time employees who do not supervise staff. Additionally, similar tables for regular part-time employees, managers, and department heads are available on the following slides. So in the upper right-hand corner of this table is the current number of employees within each performance category. So you'll see this same table on the next few slides as well. The performance ratings are categorized into different levels and are determined by the overall average score an employee can achieve on their evaluation. Under the percentage expected column, you'll find the distribution percentages for each performance level. And these percentages are simply based on an industry standard identified by payscale.com while developing a pay for performance program. So although this standard may not completely reflect the performance level of our specific employees, it just serves as a starting point for our analysis. And to ensure sufficient funding, we recommend incorporating an additional contingency fund to ensure that there's enough to cover anything that may not fall within this distribution. The number column calculates the number of employees falling with each performance level based on the percentage distribution. So you multiply, let's say like 10% times 117, you get around 11 that are within that particular performance level. And next, the merit pay column contains the recommended merit incentive corresponding to each performance level. This is the amount awarded to the employees in recognition of their respective performance levels. Lastly, the total column calculates the total number of employees falling with each performance level and provides the associated merit pay for each category. The proposed merit incentive system includes rewards for different performance levels, namely fully achieving expectations, exceeding expectations, and exceptional performers. This structure draws inspiration from successful implementations in other cities with similar merit pay frameworks. While the primary goal of our performance management system is to encourage high performance, it's recommended to also recognize employees who meet expectations for several reasons. First, it's important to acknowledge that our employees already operate at a considerably high performance level. By recognizing those who meet expectations, we reinforce the value of consistent and reliable performance within the city. Furthermore, including rewards for meeting expectations helps maintain the integrity of the performance evaluations. Without providing any reward for this performance level, there's a risk of unintentionally skewing the evaluations towards higher performance tiers. Such a scenario could potentially inflate ratings in exceeding expectations and exceptional performer categories, undermining the accuracy and fairness of the system. So I'll pause here and ask any or answer any questions you may have.
Hey, just a question on the merit pay, is that like a fixed amount, a one-time fixed amount? Like, once you do the assessment and they fall in this, then, employee on 3 to 3.49 would get $500.
That's correct.
Assumed distribution would be 35% of all employees that are evaluated. Multiply that out. That's not a monthly, that's just a
No.
fixed, almost like a merit pay bonus.
That's exactly
Based
what
on-
I was using that.
A one-time
term.
incentive.
Yes,
Right.
one-time incentive. And this would be payout once
This
instead of
is
spread
part of
out.
It's not included in the base.
Until next year.
So
One-time
then-
incentive.
so this is the first phase of implementation.
In your question.
Well, go ahead, Stacy.
Is it a one-time
Yes.
we're doing this? That's what I'm saying.
That's correct.
Every
Once a year.
It's an
Once a
annual
year,
thing.
yes.
as far as-
It's an annual thing.
Yes, as far as performance.
Got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
So on the next slide, you'll find a table outlining the proposed merit incentive for our regular part-time employees, and there are 9 of those. On average, a part-time employee works approximately 25 hours per week, which is equivalent to 62.5% of a full-time employee's workload. As a result, the proposed pay for this category of employees is set at 62.5% of the merit incentive recommended for full-time employees that you just saw. So it's important to note that the actual award received by a regular part-time employee will be adjusted to reflect their specific work schedules. So if they work less than 25 hours, if they work 20 hours, it'll be half of what the regular full-time employee merit pay would be.
Stacy, are these part-time positions always part-time positions, or are these part-time positions to accommodate work-life balance, or is it the job task is a part-time job task?
It's job tasks. So these are positions that we have deemed that they are not needed to be full-time positions at this time. So they are considered part-time positions. So we have,
There's no job share in this. This is,
correct. So this is, say like in our finance department, we have Jean, who is a part-time employee. She comes in and she works, I think, 25 to 30 hours a week. She processes the accounts payable for us and among other duties, but that's mainly her responsibility. So that's just one position. Because she is here regularly and not seasonally, we believe that that particular position should be included in the performance management program.
Makes sense.
Moving on, we have the recommended merit incentive for managers and supervisors. And this category encompasses employees who hold direct responsibility for overseeing the work of staff, managing employee development, conducting performance evaluations for their direct reports, ensuring accountability for tasks, and providing necessary support and resources to help their staff achieve their goals. In our fire department, this designation includes captains and above, while in police, it comprises sergeants and above. Additionally, there are a few eligible employees from other departments who fall into this category. So there are 42 within this particular category. The proposed merit pay for managers and supervisors is set at 1.5 times that of regular full-time employees. This higher incentive reflects the increased responsibilities and leadership roles held by individuals in this category. So the amount that you see in the merit pay, proposed merit pay, is 1.5 times that of what you saw for regular full-time employees. Questions before I move on to department heads? Okay. Finally, we have the proposed merit incentive for department heads. In recognition of the significant level of responsibility they hold, the merit pay for department heads is set at 1.5 times that of managers and supervisors. This increase in incentive reflects the pivotal role department heads play in leading their respective departments and driving organizational success. It is important to note that this category includes 12 individuals, each overseeing crucial aspects of our organization. However, our city manager's pay is determined by the council and is therefore excluded from this category. The proposed merit incentives for each category of employees amount to a total cost of approximately $231,000 And in the event that the actual distribution of employees within the performance level deviates from the industry standard presented within the previous slides, we suggest allocating a 10% contingency to ensure sufficient funding for the program. That brings the proposed total budget for the merit incentives to almost $254,000. Moving forward, we'll now delve into the other aspect of the proposed pay structure, which is that market adjustment.
For the case of just looking at this, under percentage expected, you did 10, 35, 40, 15. What kind of governing tool are managers going to have so that we don't end up with, say, for example, 70% of the people as fives? So I understand training will be some of that.
Training.
But for example, when Steve does department heads, would we say, Steve, you can only give 2 people a 5 and that type of confinement? Or is it, we're going to roll the dice and see where these individuals fall?
The latter. You don't want to have that force rating aspect, because if you don't recognize the performance of each individual employee, it disincentivizes them to be high-performing employees. It also helps with, or I guess it disengages the employee as well. It
I get
affects
that.
their
I get
trust
that
in the
part of it.
system.
I mean, I understand that. I guess to me, it really becomes critical then that we understand the difference between when a manager sits down and starts doing these, between a 4, a 5, a 3, because it's so easy. I mean, anybody that's managed people know that if you don't like confrontation, you're going to give everybody a 5 and just kind of move on. And so I can't emphasize enough how important that part of their training for anybody that evaluates somebody else is going to be. That's going to be really critical to make the program a success.
Right. And not only the training, we will have those calibration sessions as well. So they will have to answer to their peers to ensure that you don't have that rainbows and unicorns, within the same department and the double and the other, so you have to have fairness across the board. And I believe that the calibration sessions, including that as a component of the system, will help alleviate some of those bias ratings that we were talking about earlier. And the department head itself also will have to ensure that there's fairness across their system. And and it's not within just the department. It's going to cross departments as well. So you want to make sure that, fire, police, and all the other admin departments are fairly rating the employees.
So are you going to will there be a point in time where we'll sit down, where you will sit down the managers and we have 42 managers talking about 117 employees. Is there at some point where they'll do that as a group so that I'm just trying to understand how we're going to make sure that this works the right way. There's a lot of work been put into this. I see that. This is the one part to me that's gray.
I agree. And we'll see how the calibration sessions go, and we'll evaluate that process to ensure that it's fair.
Explain to me a little bit more about your calibration sessions so I understand how they work.
So the calibration sessions are taking the evaluations after the supervisor has completed them, before they talk to the employees. They will take those evaluations and discuss among their peers to ensure that they're rating properly. And so everybody reviews each other's evaluations.
Okay. So there is that group
Absolutely.
think type of thing where we say, well, what do you mean you've got 10 people that are all 5s?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's holding each other accountable.
Are they blind? Are the surveys or the reviews done blind to who the individual is? They're looking at the individual measurements made by members of my team, and you're seeing my calibration of my team. Are my 5 people nameless on those evaluations, or are you seeing it's
No,
Bob,
you'll have
Steve, Mary, and Judy and,
You'll have the specific employees on there because you also, what you also gain in those calibration sessions, especially for larger departments, is there's, employees move around from shift to shift. So you can also have that other supervisor saying, well, this is what I've seen at that performance level of the employee to kind of feed into that performance evaluation. So you will have names to everything. And it's not just the people who supervise the employees. It's also others that may see the performance of those employees who may not be engaged into the day-to-day operations of how that employee performs.
what
It's just-
fosters a cross-discipline engagement and good behavior and fosters team.
Absolutely. And accountability.
Very good.
Okay. So we'll talk now about the market adjustment. So here's a summary of our market adjustments over the last 7 years. And for a number of years, we believe we were staying competitive with our sister cities, our competitors, by offering a uniform market adjustment of 3% across the board. However, during a compensation study conducted in 2021 for the fiscal year 22 budget, it became evident that we were significantly lagging behind the market in many of our positions. The challenges the challenges posed by the pandemic and the complexities of the political and social environment police across the nation faced added to the difficulty in attracting and retaining public safety personnel, not only for us, but also for our sister cities. So consequently, substantial pay adjustments were necessary across all departments last year to address these issues effectively. Do you have any questions on this slide before I move forward? Okay.
We took this very seriously last year. We looked at bringing up the pay to what we thought was competitive to help us understand what's the disconnect between thought we had rectified. Some of these numbers are pretty big, percentage-wise, to where we are today. How did that happen in a year if we actually thought we were competitive? What we did last year.
So over in between fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23, at that time, everybody seemed to be adjusting their salaries to come up to market because we were all having difficulty in attracting people, especially for public safety positions. And when we did that market study, after everybody started doing their adjustments to their budgets, we realized that we were just way behind, especially as you can see, police and some of the levels in fire. So we were 20% behind, 15% behind. And so we were catching them up to the market because we're competing with the same pool of employees at the end of the day. And so we wanted to at least have some sort of competition within the market so that we had some ability to not only attract, but also to retain our employees. So we didn't have those employees moving over to the sister cities, especially in Roswell. They're bringing on a brand new fire department where they had all part-time firefighters previously. And those were our full-time firefighters could have been going over there as part-time. Well, now they're coming on board. And I believe that the comment was made was that we want to be the industry leader when it came to pay for firefighters. And so just taking all of that into consideration is the adjustments that we had to do last year. Did I answer your question, Councilmember Morrig?
I'm just saying, this would be, when you talk about the market we're looking at, getting survey data from our Fulton or Metro, different departments,
Just to be clear, this was the one leading into this year. This is not saying we're behind the market now.
That was my concern.
Yeah, this is
Where
what we
that's what I thought I
approved
was
last
just
year.
hearing.
Because we did do.
That's what we
significant
approved
last
last
year.
Yeah, this is the one leading into this year where this is what caused the significant increase. I don't want to get ahead of Stacy, but the proposal will be is we'll do those market studies every other year, just to make sure we're keeping in line.
That puts me a little bit at ease because I was thinking, how could we have done what we did last year and then we're this far behind? And then, this was last.
That's correct. I'm sorry. I missed it.
Nope, I appreciate it. Thanks for the clarification.
So rather than attempting to match the ever-changing benchmarks set by our sister cities each year, the committee suggests adopting a different approach for future market adjustments. The proposal is to base these adjustments on the Employment Cost Index, which is an economic indicator published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The ECI measures the fluctuation in labor cost and provides insights into the overall performance of the economy. The ECI is calculated on a quarterly basis and captures changes in wages and benefits across various levels of thousands of organizations, both in the private and public sectors. By utilizing the ECI as a guiding metric, we can make more informed and data-driven decisions about market adjustments, ensuring that our compensation strategies remain aligned with prevailing economic trends and labor market conditions. So over the past 17 years, the ECI history has tracked the 12-month percentage change for the quarterly reports published. In this particular chart that you see is the one published for each March. The red line in the graph represents data from the private industry, while the blue line represents data from state and local governments. In the table presented, the March 2023 numbers stand out, showing the highest percentage change compared to other published data for Q1 reports over the years. This observation indicates a notable shift in labor costs and economic trends during that specific period. Considering that the March data aligns favorably with our budgeting cycle, the committee recommends using this report as a key reference point for the market adjustments. And then, as City Manager just mentioned, we also propose that every other year a compensation be performed to ensure we remain competitive with our surrounding jurisdictions. The total cost of the merit incentive and the market adjustment would be $889,296. To summarize, the proposed performance management system aims to create a fair and effective evaluation process tailored to meet the unique needs of our city. It emphasizes the importance of avoiding biases in performance ratings through bias awareness training and calibration sessions. The system incorporates employee input during its development and encourages open communication to address any concerns. Additionally, the system allocates adequate funds to support merit incentives for different employee categories, including regular full-time and part-time employees, managers, supervisors, and department heads. The system also utilizes the Employment Cost Index, or ECI, as a metric for future market adjustments, ensuring that compensation strategies remain aligned with prevailing economic trends and labor market conditions. Overall, the proposed performance management system aims to foster employee engagement, motivation, and growth while driving organizational success. What we're asking for tonight is approval of the proposed performance management system, and if approved, the funding will be included in the budget where it will go through the ordinance approval process. And I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any other feedback if you have it.
Any questions for Stacy?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. I think you guys did a great job. I mean, this is something I think was really needed, and I think the next step, the training, will be critical, but I think the groundwork you've laid is outstanding. I'm in favor of approving the system and moving it forward. My only concern is approving the 4.7% until we see the total budget. So it's like, kind of like, is this like a tentative approval? If that's what that is, then I'm fine with that, but just want to make sure we're.
The budget that Bernadette and City Manager and I have put together includes this funding already in there as a part of the package. So whenever that gets presented to you, it will include it in there if you, and it will still include it in there if you approve it tonight.
But we'll still have a chance to modify if we want.
You will.
Absolutely.
Tonight, what you're looking at is the process. And then in a few weeks, when we have the budget before you, that will be when you're looking at the 4.7 again, and you can approve it, adjust it, or anything you want to do at that point.
All right, anything else?
I would just echo Councilmember Jacobus's points. This is, when we sat last week and went through this, it was very evident that you guys comprehended not only what you're presenting to us, but you had done the work to get to that point with outside resources as well as internal, and I applaud the hard work that went into that. It's only going to be as good as you guys invest now to make sure that the training happens. That's going to, that's the biggest gap. We've got great people here. They're looking at a potential upside to their performance rewards. I look forward to them investing that time and energy to ensure that they do grasp it. It's, of course, really incumbent on the management team to embrace it, to be able to model it to the other team. But if they have any shot at it, it's because you guys have done this level of preparation to get to that point. So job
Thank
well
you very
done.
much. I appreciate that. And we'll definitely be moving forward and developing the policy that goes along with this, ensuring that training is incorporated and given in the proper manner. And so we're looking forward to rolling this out. I think everybody's getting excited about it.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
We do not, Mayor.
Okay. Yeah, I know we've been talking about this for many, many years, and so I know it won't be perfect this first year, but at least it's a step in the right direction. I will open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve agenda item number 23-187.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus, a second from Councilmember Veroff to approve agenda item number 23-187. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stacy. Will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
Mayor, item B is consideration of approval of a resolution of the City of Milton, Georgia, establishing the date for municipal elections for the purpose of electing council members for District 1, Post 2, District 2, Post 2, and District 3, Post 2, to provide for qualifying dates and fees, and to provide for absentee ballot clerk, deputy absentee ballot clerk, and deputy election superintendents. Agenda item number 23-188. Our city manager, Mr. Stephen Krokoff.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Actually, the agenda name almost provides the entire summary. But quickly, this resolution establishes the date and hours of the advanced voting, and I'm going to talk about that quickly in a second, for the municipal general election for 2023, the dates and hours of the potential runoff, should there be one, the dates, hours, and fees for the qualifying period, and the appointment of the absentee ballot clerk. In a municipal election, the absentee ballot clerk is appointed by the governing body, and I'm seeking your approval in appointing Tammy Lowe in that position. In a municipal election, the election superintendent has the authority to appoint the deputy election superintendent and the deputy absentee ballot clerk. I am planning on using Stacy and Tammy interchangeably to back me up and back each other up in those positions. A couple of quick things I just want to point out. Advanced voting for the general election. It's going to begin on August 16th statutorily. We are recommending the hours of 9 to 5 on the first day because that first day involves a lot of prep.
What was the advanced voting? What was it?
October 16th.
October.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Did I say something different?
I said August. All good.
October 16th, from 9 to 5. This way we can administer all the oaths and things like that beforehand. Then we're recommending the next 2 days, the 17th and 18th, extended hours, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. because we know that we have, historically, we've had an increase in electors those days. October 19th through the October 31st, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., which are the normal hours. We're not including the optional Sundays. And then November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, we're looking to extend the hours 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. because we know that we have a larger turnout. We're also hoping to leverage our communications and hopefully encourage people to come out during that early voting time. Any questions?
I have one. Mr. City Attorney, in light of some of the discussion from earlier this evening about some of the narratives that are out there, do you find it appropriate or inappropriate for those of us who are seated today, none of us who are declared candidates in the upcoming election, to weigh in and vote on this measure this evening?
Right. So the law on this with respect to a municipal election anticipates that the governing authority is going to vote on multiple issues, candidly, depending upon what election year it was. If you all, even if you were prospectively going to run, were disqualified, there wouldn't be a quorum. So no, I don't have a concern from an ethical perspective of you voting on this.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed part of that. Steve, are there still 2 Saturdays that we're going to be holding early voting for?
That's correct. That's mandatory per SB 202. So we will have those 2 Saturdays.
Any other questions? Any public comment?
Yes, we have one, Mayor.
Okay.
I'd like to invite Mr. Tim Becker to the podium. Okay,
Okay. Any other comment?
that concludes.
All right. I'll close public comment. Any council discussion? Okay. I will open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we approve agenda item number 23-188.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilor Jacobus and a second from Councilor Johnson to approve agenda item number 23-188. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. Will the city clerk please have the added new business item?
Mayor, the added new business item approved under approval of meeting agenda is consideration, discussion, and direction regarding City of Milton precincts and polling locations for the 2023 municipal election to include possible modification of same and possible rescission of prior action establishing precincts and polling locations. Mayor Jameson?
Thank you. Yes, I believe this topic has come up many times over the course of months based on our previous discussion. And after communication with individual council members, I believe this is probably the last time that we can adjust our polling locations. And hopefully we can add that third polling locations at the public safety complex, and we can put this issue behind us. And I know time is of the essence as far as advertising and communication. So with that, I would like to open it for any discussion on the item.
I'll start.
Sure.
I certainly voted for 2 polling locations, and I did it basically on cost. And I personally did not realize the number of people that live in my district that would be concerned about that fact. And since then, I have had numerous conversations with individuals, people I respect that live in the area, that all say that it would behoove the city to open 3. And based on that, I'm going to change my vote and go to 3. I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, if I didn't hear any comments and it wasn't of interest to people, I'd let it go. But I've had too many people personally contact me on this issue where I haven't heard from them at all on any other topic. And so, you know, every now and then you just got to belly up to the bar and just do what's right. And in this case, I think having the 3rd is the right thing to do.
Councilor Morg and then Moore.
Okay, and I kind of echo what Councilman Jacobus said. I was on the election feasibility study committee. We talked about this. We initially considered just one. We thought we could do it with one location. We added a second location, and we suggested an east and a west. So we're going to have one on Highway 9, one over here at City Hall. And when we got into the discussion of 2, we were told that there were concerns about accommodating at the public safety building, the ability to have that as a location of the 2 locations. And just for the record, that's how we shifted as a council. I don't know who led the discussion, but then we shifted away from Highway 9 and went to our other public facility, which we had just held a midterm election. So had I been thinking more quickly, I would have said, well, let's look at Cambridge High School, or let's look at Stone Creek to keep it down in this area. That's history. We're at the point where I've heard a lot of communication coming back also. I think we need to have something down in that area. That was our intent initially. So I'm in favor at this point of going ahead and saying, let's go ahead and let's put a 3rd location. My question, and it's specifically in the Highway 9 area, my question is, if we had 3 locations, right? We have City Hall, Milton City Park and Preserve Community Center, and then a 3rd. Can we accommodate now, because there's 3, could we accommodate that being at the public safety facility?
I believe so, yeah. My original numbers and projections would account for the number that would likely show up on election day down there.
Okay.
Councilor Moore.
Councilmember Moore said many of the things that I was going to say, having been a member of the committee and going through the thought process and the conclusions that we came to make that recommendation. He's already clearly stated the path to which we would get there. I would only add one caveat to that, is one of the reasons we actually did not consider Cambridge or second look, Stone, one of the churches, was because those had costs associated with them. So we were, in being consistent with what our charge was, which was to drive cost out of the system. I think that that's why we didn't go there at that particular time. We were looking at facilities that were owned by the city. I'm going to change where I was on this as well. I mean, I've heard the outcry from the community. I think it's appropriate that we reconsider this, and I'm glad we're doing that this evening. I think that as we look at this, one of the cries was for us to go back to Fulton County, which I think would be a horrible mistake and a real injustice to our taxpayers. You're talking about going back to Fulton County, that would potentially take us back to the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we have driven out of the system. If it's a cost measure of us doing that, or looking at adding a third location at a facility that we already own, and it's to the tune of $10,000, $11,000, I certainly can justify that to the addition of the third location to the taxpayers based on those considerations. And as such, I'm prepared to change my original position.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore. Any discussion?
Councilmember, if Councilmember Cookerly wants to speak, I'd rather defer to her.
Councilmember Cookerly, you speaking?
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Moore, do we have an updated cost savings analysis vis-a-vis what it would cost for us and the investment we've made versus Fulton County?
Updated cost savings versus us in Fulton County.
Who's that
Steve?
addressed to?
I think it's Steve.
I couldn't hear.
Do you want to know an
We want to know if
updated
there's
cost?
an updated cost of what we think it's going to cost us now to run this election.
We know how much it's going to cost us based on our budget plus
Right.
the added third polling location. So
I didn't prepare that with the third polling location for tonight's meeting. I apologize. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Well, can you hear me?
I can.
vaguely,
Okay, is this better?
Yes,
Okay. Well, Councilmember Moore, you said there would be hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings. How do you quantify that? Where's that data?
Carol, this is Rick. I can tell you, when we looked at the data, we looked at what Fulton County said they were going to charge the other cities per registered voter, and that's the way it was calculated. It was per your registered voter. If you do that extrapolation, we'd be having probably a 200, over the 84,000, it would be a $240,000 to $250,000 increase over the 84,000. We've had people come forward and state, you know, you did it for 84,000 in 2021. The projected budget is 98,000. There's no savings. That's not apples and apples. That's apples and oranges. We need to look at what Fulton County has told all the other cities the increase would be per registered voter. That's the only thing we have to go on. We didn't get an IGA because we had already said we were going to go ahead. But what I've calculated, and Steve could go back and give us more accurate, it's above $200,000 in savings just this year. And that would be a bigger number, even if Fulton County never increased their prices going forward, because we had initial
Mr. Becker.
we had initial costs that were incorporated into it with the purchase of equipment. But that's basically going at what we were told, and then the figures that you all have looked at as far as what the cost would be if we were to run it ourselves.
Okay, but that number hasn't necessarily been verified. Is that correct?
Councilmember Cookerly, the unknown at this point is what it's going to cost Fulton County to run the elections. So I don't recall what the IGA stated, as we were not party to it. But what they are doing is they are charging, similar to the last time around, a flat fee per registered voter. And then this time around, they're going to true up depending on actual costs. And should the costs come in higher, they'll charge more. Should they come in less, they'll refund. From what I understand in the 21 cycle, the reason that there were no refunds is because they went $2 million into the red on that cycle. So I don't know what the figures are going to look like. I won't be able to compare the two until it's all done.
Okay, I understand. Well, Mayor, could I expand on that for just a moment?
Sure.
Okay. You know, I think that the future is Milton running municipal elections, and maybe more in conjunction with other cities in other municipalities in North Fulton County. But I'm also open to Fulton County running this municipal election because I believe we have an ongoing fiduciary duty to continuously think about and evaluate options, our highest and best use of our people, our budget, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as you know, I've been an enthusiastic supporter of this venture. We certainly have the brain power of the citizenry and the energy. It's been very impressive, and I've been extremely impressive with our staff. And I think our staff, Mr. Prokop, Ms. Lowett, Ms. Inglis, if they were unencumbered, could do a bang-up job. But there have been some encumbrances. And I realize it's not popular to say this because nobody wants to think about taking a step to the side. And I would only say it's a step to the side. It's not a step back because the training is there. The will is there. But there's a number of things that have potentially happened that create a burden. And as we all know that, you know, elections are, well, they're the initiation of them, the management of them, and the outcome are often controversial. And there's often a lot of clawback all the way to the very beginning of who did what and said what to whom. So it can be very, very complicated. So it may not be popular to at least open our minds to it, and it might be prudent because we owe the citizenry as open, streamlined, and as clean a process as possible. And I think recent and near-term events, and I'm not indicting anything or anyone because there's still quite a bit to play out. And we've got some burdens to sort through. And I see an escalation of issues, not a minimization of issues. I wish I could tell you candidly the other way around. An ideal situation would be if reality and perception align. And in our situation, I think there's a gap and a growing gap between the two, and that doesn't necessarily bode well for the future. And when there's a gap, it means there's a multitude of issues and they drain time, energy, reputation, et cetera. So I'm not negative on the long-term prospects of doing this. I am extremely cautious and suggest we are all cautious and not overly and not zealots about having to do this for the sake of maybe proving a point. Just being very measured in using what little time we have before it's a drop dead date in Fulton County to really think about it and wonder and ask ourselves questions. Is this in the best interest of Milton right now? I firmly believe it is in the long term. So that is my comments on that matter. And thank you for letting me put that in the record.
Thank you. Two direct questions. I'm going to ask you, election superintendent, not Mr. City Manager. Can we run our own elections as of today? Do you feel confident? And two, with the follow-up, if so, what more do you need to run a successful election here?
Mechanically, we can definitely run our own election. We have a multitude of very committed people that have been working behind the scenes, helping us to get to where we are right now. But as you know, and some of what I've communicated to you all, trust and legitimacy are a critical piece. They're more important than the financial piece at the end of the day. And it's important that if we move forward, we can maintain that level of trust and legitimacy with our community. I've seen some things that have come out, some things that are untrue for sure. Though I believe everybody is trying to do the right thing for the right reason. The gap that Councilmember Kirkley talked about between perception and reality is of a concern to me as the city manager. And we would need to bridge that gap pretty quick to be able to gain back the trust and maintain the level of legitimacy we need with our citizens. So it would mean some changes going forward if that is something the council was interested in doing.
Well, I will tell you, I think we're making the right step tonight. It's the first step. And if there's any changes that need to be made, that you address that to us immediately, if council's okay with that.
I am.
Okay. All right. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll close public comment. I know the city attorney's itching at saying something.
I just want to make sure we get the motion correct,
Yep,
because we've got some deadlines coming up with respect to legal ads, et cetera. And, there have been some previous resolutions on this, and I believe that there needs to be, as part of the motion, to send the election superintendent forth to begin running the requisite legal ads for a third precinct with its attendant polling location to come back to the council on September 4th, where you'll make your final action. There needs to be also a rescission of any prior acts of the council addressing the issue of precincts and polling locations. I want that in the record to make it very clear that all that prior work is, those prior declarations by the city are rescinded.
Okay. Councilman Moore?
Can we make a motion using what you just stated as our motion? The verbiage?
What I just stated? Yes, that would be fine. I think I stated it pretty effectively, a little verbose for your typical motion, but I think that's the nuts and bolts of it. Is we'll be running the legal ads, stating this for a September 4th council meeting, and bringing back the third precinct plus the attendant polling location.
And rescind.
And rescinding any prior action of the council on that issue.
Okay.
And September 4th was a date.
That's the one we have to vote on. That or before, does that allow enough time for the advertisement?
September 4th, we'll get it done. I'll work with the election superintendent on the day of the ad.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Motion.
Anyone have
The
a?
motion as stated by our
Yeah.
legal
And
counsel.
I will second that.
Okay. I have a motion from Councilman Jacobus, and a second from Councilman Moore, to do exactly what City Attorney Ken Gerard said. Is that okay? Is that good?
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. We will move on to mayor and council reports. I don't have anything to report on. Council have anything? Okay. With that, we will open up for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, council, I have a motion from Councilmember Morgue, second from Councilmember Johnson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's unanimous.